Hello, trumpet players. This is video number 4 in our Comeback Trumpet Player Guide. And in this video, we're going to talk about what music you should be practicing. In the previous video, we talked about getting you back onto the horn in a very structured, practical manner. Now that you're back on the trumpet, you should have some sort of daily practice that you do for your chops. That can be as long as 2 hours, or it can be 15 minutes. It really depends on you. I like to teach what I call the 50% rule that says at least 50% of your practice time should be spent practicing music. So in this video, we're going to talk about that second 50%. We're not going to talk about the routine because I actually think that the needs of the comeback player are the same as everybody else's needs when it comes to the routine, with one exception, and we won't talk about that exception in this video. We're going to have a video later that talks about time restrictions, and that's the one exception. Okay? So let's go on then to what music you should be practicing. And I actually believe that the music you practice should be in alignment with your purpose. In video number 2 in this series, when we said practice with a purpose, there's a reason why we decided we were going to do that instead of just arbitrarily starting up trumpet again just because. We want to practice with a purpose. And one of those reasons why we want to practice with a purpose is it helps us decide very easily what music we should practice. So, for example, let's revisit the 3 purposes I mentioned in that second video. The first purpose I mentioned was there are trumpet players that pick up the instrument because they want to glorify God. Now, let me ask you this. Now, when they say that, the context is almost always the same. They used to play trumpet when they were younger. They go to a church where there's an orchestra or a praise band or something like that. And they say, I feel like I need to be part of that. Well, then that is the music you should be practicing, is music that glorifies God. This is not the time necessarily to be practicing, for example, a concerto, right? This is not the time to be learning how to play giant steps. This is not the time to learn, if you don't have the chops for it, the Brandenburg Concerto, right? It's not so much that those things are out of your reach, it's that the time and effort it would take to accomplish those tasks, even for a pro, is so much that it is genuinely a distraction from your purpose. That doesn't mean you have to be stuck just practicing hymns. I mean, there's wonderful music out there that does glorify God, that is, I guess in a sense, the Brandenburg could be part of that, because all of Bach's music is dedicated to God. When he wrote it, he dedicated it to God. Right? So in a sense, you could say that. But if you don't have a Christian venue or avenue to perform that piece, why are you practicing it? So that's the first thing I would say is if you're doing this for the purpose of glorifying God, keep your music church related. You can go as deep into that as you want, or not. But I promise you, because I've seen it so much, if you vary from that, if you become distracted from that, it will cause chaos in your music. It will cause frustration in your life. And that's not stuff that you want to have to deal with. All right, so the second purpose we talked about in that second video was uh, to have something at the... So we talked about the musicians who they quit playing so they could do the responsible adult thing and support their families. Now they're towards the end of their careers, their kids are out of the house. This is just a hypothetical example. And they want to do something that is basically a fruits of their labor activity. They want to do something that they enjoy, that they feel like they've earned with the work they've invested and the sacrifice they've made in their life up to now. And I told you, this is an honorable, and I think the label I gave it was to playing just for fun. That is absolutely, I'm going to say it again, I said it in the other video, that is absolutely a valid reason to play trumpet. Same thing here. If you are playing the trumpet, remember your purpose. If you're playing the trumpet to have fun, that should dictate to you which music you should be practicing and which music you should not be practicing. And yes, I know most of you that think this way are not going to be juvenile about it. You guys are old enough to know that sometimes the best fun is the fun that takes the most effort. You wouldn't be pursuing trumpet for fun at this age if you didn't already know that. So you already know that if you take on, for example, the Brandenburg Concerto as one of your goals to shoot for, that's going to be fun. Even though it's going to take you how much time in developing your chops, learning the music, all of that, it might take you years. But with your mindset, you're already going to know that that's worth it. That said, not all of the music that you play for fun should actually be heavy hitting goals like that. You also want to have some lower stuff, pieces that you can just add to your repertoire now. I'm actually building right now a list of jazz tunes for my students. I call them camping songs. And this is not tunes that we're going to learn to improvise on. This is just a sequence of easy jazz tunes in their standard key so that the student can play along with the album on the hit. And these are simple tunes, but tunes that they can pick up the horn and play along with the album. And that's fun. What else is fun? It's fun to play with play-along albums. I've got a number, and I want to collect all of these. I'll pull them down real quick. Even I think these are fun, and I didn't buy these for myself, I bought them for my students. These are Music -1 packages, right? Armando Guitarra does the examples in this one. It's got, I think, 6 different solos and then piano accompaniment. And here's one, same thing, but Robert Nagel put it together. Has the last movement of the Hummel Concerto. Has the fiocco. I think that's how you pronounce it. Um, I have one in here that here's Artunian and Gedeke. Right? Here's one I bought for myself. I have to now say, yes, I did get this for myself. I heard, uh, what's his name? The New York Trumpet Ensemble guy used to be in the Houston Symphony. Oh, no, I can't remember his name. I heard him play this before I ever heard Maurice Andre play it. It's a oboe concerto in B flat by Handel. Beautiful, beautiful music. Here's one for brass quintet. Oh wait, no, this is that's brass quintet. And I'm just saying, playing with these things, and the Music Minus One also has some very lush trumpet and orchestra recordings for jazz they're kind of jazz pop kind of things. And yes, that's fun. If you're doing this for fun, that's the stuff you should be practicing because that is fun. Now, the third category was a different category. There are people who return to the trumpet after time away from playing the trumpet because they want to do something to improve their cognitive function, right? They want to work on their brain. And there are very few things in life, in my opinion, that work on your brain as well as playing the trumpet, especially if you're playing literature, like what we're talking about now, playing literature, because that's the pinnacle. The pinnacle of playing the trumpet is playing tunes or concertos or church music. This is the pinnacle of what your mind can do because there's as many as 50 to 100 things going on at the same time, all going on at the same time in your head, right? Now, if you are working on music that doesn't challenge you that way, for example, music that doesn't have a challenging key, music that doesn't have a challenging time signature, there's nothing challenging about it. Maybe it's hard with the chops. That's really a waste of time for you. This is not for fun now. This is serious stuff. This is like taking your medicine. Now, you can have fun while you're doing it, but if your purpose is to improve your brain, then the music that you choose should be music that challenges your brain. So stuff like the Getchell book, if you're at more of a beginner level, the Getchell book is wonderful for that because you're going through different rhythm patterns, different time signatures, different key signatures. I strongly recommend that if you're doing this for mental cognition, that you practice music in every key. I strongly recommend that you do all types of time signatures. I strongly recommend that you practice stuff that maybe with duets and other ensemble things, because that's another level of cognition. So you see what I'm saying here? The music that you practice is already laid out for you because you did that first step that I talked about where you decide, this is why I'm doing this. And if you get distracted and go away from your purpose, you will have issues. The ones who know why they're doing this and stick to that, those are the ones that don't have issues. Now, there's one more thing I want to add to this before I close. I believe that all of the literature, I keep calling it literature, you can call it songs, you can call it tunes, basically the music that you play, instead of exercises. We're not talking about exercises. Exercises are a whole different project. I'm talking about the songs that you play that eventually could be performed in public. There's something about doing the literature, I'm going to continue to call it literature, um, that I find very beneficial and very important. I believe that you should accumulate literature. You don't ever move on to the next song. You add the new song to your repertoire. This is actually more important for us old folk because the literature that we have, that reminds me of something I always say, right? There's a saying amongst musicians, they say it's your tone that defines you as a player, and for a long time, I've said that's not true. It is not your tone, your sound quality that defines you as a musician. What defines you as a musician is your literature. You might have a beautiful orchestral tone, but if the only music you know is brass quintet music, then you are a brass quintet player, not an orchestral player. If your literature that you know, if the sound that you have is a perfect jazz sound, but all you know is orchestral music, you are an orchestral player. You might not be a good one, but that's what you are. That's what defines you, is your literature. You're not a jazz player. If you have a 1920s style jazz sound, but you play Ornette Coleman style music, real modern style jazz. We say modern, right? But that's been around now for 50 years. So that shows you how modern the jazz guys really are. But yes, if you only know Ornette Coleman tunes and stuff like that, you are not a 1920s player. You are a more modern jazz player. And if you approach the literature from that perspective, you can also draw the same another conclusion from that, and you can say that the literature is what makes me a valuable player. And it's actually true in fact, this is where I got that philosophy from in the first place. Because I learned early on in my career, it's the tunes I know that make me valuable to the leader. It's not my tone, it's not my range, it's the tunes that I know. Do I know this music? If I know the music, they don't care what my tone is. They're going to hire me because I know the music. Now, if I sound awful, that's different. That's not what we're talking about, right? So yes, the value that you have is in the accumulation of literature that you've got. So if I know 1,000 jazz tunes, I'm more valuable than the jazz player who only knows 100 jazz tunes. So that's where my concept of accumulating literature comes from. We don't say, I have a student this week, he's working on Prayer of St. Gregory, right? Now, technically speaking, that's an easy piece if you've got the range for it. But that's not something that you move on from. That's something that goes into your repertoire and you keep it in your repertoire. And you keep coming back to it and refining it and developing it and advancing it. Your growth on that song never ends. You never say, okay, I'm finished practicing this. That never happens on any pieces of music. You continue to practice this stuff. You're just going to add new songs as you go. That is more important for the comeback players, I believe, than it is for my other students. Because of the time that we have, the time restrictions, and I don't mean time as in you're going to be dying soon. I don't mean that. Some people have like a hang up over that, right? I don't think that's a good thing. I don't think it's good to say, well, I'm 90 years old, so really I don't have that much time to learn so much music. That's not how it works. You're on the same timeline as the rest of us. Okay? That that little voice gets in there and says you're running out of time, that's a lie. And I don't want you to listen to that lie. Okay? No, I'm talking about the time that we have to practice. As we get older, that time, for some people, is at a minimum. So it's important that the music that we learn it well, and the only way to learn it well is to live with it. And that's what this accumulation stuff is for. We want to continue to accumulate literature, accumulate. You never move on from a song. The only time you can move on is if it's like an etude or something that you never expect to play in public ever. Right? Like the Getchell book. No reason to keep going back to the Getchell book because that's not something you would play in public unless that's something you want to do. I guess it's possible. Anyway, so that's my stance on the literature. You know, here's another thing that I'd like to share with you. The time you have is limited. Even when I was younger, I thought that it was a good idea to learn all the music that's out there for trumpet. It didn't take me long to figure out that's not possible. Even with when I was in my 20s, when you look at just how much music is out there, you have to choose. You have to choose what, it's true in jazz, it's true in classical, it's even true in orchestral stuff. You can't learn all of it. Not to the point that what we teach in this lesson, right? I'm not interested in helping you just be a hack, right? I help people do it right. And if you're going to do it right, you have to invest time into the music. Okay? All right, if you've got questions about this, please feel free to ask. And by the way, I'm going to start trying to mention this at the end of the videos. You know, people say, I want you to do thumbs up and I want you to do subscribe and all that stuff. Do you know what I would really like to invite you to do? We have a semi-weekly, lately it's been weekly because of COVID-19, right? But now that the gigs are picking up, it won't be weekly anymore. But we try to do as often as we can a question answer session live on this channel. And then I try to put the videos up at least 24 hours in advance so that if you can't be with us live, you can at least ask beforehand. And I can answer your questions in the video. And you can either access those Q and A videos either here on YouTube, or you can go to my blog. And the blog has the Q and A's in there. There's a message down in the comments, not in the comments, the description about that. And you can click on that link and it'll take you to all the past Q and A sessions. So that's what I'd like to invite you to do. If you have questions about your comeback, by all means, that's the best way to get them answered because I can actually spend time talking to you about that stuff in that video. Okay? So yes, look up my Q&A videos. We have them on Fridays. Lately, it has been almost every Friday. All right? Other than that, God bless you. We'll see you on the next video. Thank you for watching this video. I wanted to spend just a minute to let you know that there's a better, more convenient, more organized way to access all of these videos. We have literally hundreds of videos here on YouTube, and quite frankly, it's a bit of a mess. So, to make it a little bit more organized and easier for you to access what you want to access, I created a separate page a separate area on my website. That's eddielewis.com. And if you go to eddielewis.com, click on the menu, click on videos. It will take you there. I have the videos categorized, and then within those categories, some of them, like the educational videos, you can click on it and go in there and look for the videos specifically that you're looking for. Okay? So go to eddielewis.com, EDDIELEWIS.com. Thank you very much.